Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It really does help the channel out. Can't thank you enough for all the support you've shown. We've gained a staggering 500 subscribers in the last 14 days. So welcome to you all. If you have become a member, g'day to you as well. Thank you for supporting the channel financially. And we're here to do a 2021 redraft, but we're going to let the coaches decide by using their coaching votes and have a look at how that would have affected the draft. I thought this was a fun exercise. I think the coaches' votes are probably the most underrated medium of judging players, just purely because to get coaches' votes as a kid, that's quite insane, to be honest. That's quite insane if you think about it. Because these guys are only, what, 3-4 year players, 21 years old. They're still bubbies. I can say that as a 38-year-old man. So let's have a look how that draft would look if we redid it. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So here we go. Let's get into it. On the clock, we'd have North Melbourne. In a reality, in a world where everything is normal, Nick Dacos would be that man. And in an ideal world, Nick Dacos would be that man. And that is pick one. They would nominate him, obviously, as the father son, having a staggering 70 games played, 246 coaches' votes, which means 3.5 per game, 77 Brownlow votes. Originally pick 4. No doubt about it, Nick Dacos would go pick 1 in a draft where we're just judging it on coaches' votes. Up next, North Melbourne would take Jason Horne-Francis, who, let's be honest, he is a very, very accomplished footballer. 65 games, 47 goals, 1.7 coaches' votes. That is 109. 35 Brownlow votes. No doubt about it. They'd do it again. I know it was one of them deals that that time, that was one of them ones where everyone complained about it because they knew he'd go. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but Jason Horne-Francis is a ridiculously good footballer. Up next, GWS. And for me, one of my favourite people that draft, Nasir Wanganeen Milwera. What a player. 63 games, 6 goals, 56 coaches' votes. That's just under 1 a game. 0.2 Brownlow votes, which is 12. Was taken 11. No surprise here that Nas is so strong. Strong polling by the coach. He catches the eye. Gold Coast on the clock now. And based on this methodology that we're doing, the great Jake Saligo, 60 games, 22 goals, goal-kicking winger. One of my favourite players. And the fact he went 36 in this draft just says it all, doesn't it? Saligo is just one of the most underrated players, I think, in this draft class. I really do. And there's one here who gets a lot of talk. A lot of talk. And that is none other than he gets a lot of talk, this guy. Adelaide Football Club would be drafting in the legend that is Mac Andrew. What a footballer he is. And ironically, exactly where the pick would have been had we not had two father sons. So, real interesting one here. Mac Andrew on a big contract. Very versatile. He's going to be one of the most talked about players, I think, in the draft for the next couple of years. Hawthorn on the clock next, and we talked about underrated footballers. For me, this guy is an absolute underrated footballer. There is no doubt about it, the most underrated player probably, aside from Saligo in this draft. A guy who is tagging someone day one says it all. 66 games, 49 goals as well, and been given some big defensive jobs. He would still end up at the Hawks Football Club, which is great to see in this. Up next, St Kilda. And ironically, St Kilda draft really well. Michito Owens, 33 in the draft in his original time. He would be a bid because he was an academy player. And Fremantle then would be back on the clock. And they would be left with, and imagine if they ended up with this player in real life. Josh Rochelle, 56 games, 70 goals. What an exciting little player he is. So these are really, really interesting little results when you do it this way, because the NGA bid there, you've got Fremantle here on the clock. Josh Rochelle, what a pickup for them in this. Richmond would be on the clock next, and this guy here is very understated. Hard-working defensively. Finn Callahan, 50 games, 7 goals, went pick 3. This would be Richmond here would love this. Imagine being in the position at the moment where you are potentially trading, well, you are trading out Liam Baker, and being in this situation. What a fascinating way that this draft has shaped out. And then the Bulldogs would be on the clock for a father-son. They would be matching their bid on Sam Darcy. This guy hasn't taken that many coaches' votes, believe it or not. So only the 41 goals, nearly 2 goals a game. Probably higher up in my personal preference. But when we're doing it this medium, it's fascinating that the Bulldogs would have matched the bid way later, which makes it a little bit more interesting for them. Fremantle would be back on the clock here, and because they've bidded on him, ironically, they've gone key back, or they've gone third tall out the back, and that's Darcy Wilmot joins the Fremantle Football Club with pick 11. What a little pickup this is. It's a real fascinating concept for the draft. Port Adelaide, they have to do a match as well. And this is really surprising because this guy slid and slid but played so much football. Jace Burgoyne, 48 picks better than what he was. What a selection there. And isn't it funny just how these types of things work in these games? Essendon on the clock now. They would end up with Kai Lohman. What a terrific footballer he is. And what a player he is. A Premiership winner. It would have been totally different for him. But on the clock, St Kilda would match another NGA. And just showing St Kilda's NGA is very underrated. Marcus Windhager. What a player. You know what? Someone I think could be really, really high up when we do this. A little bit higher up. Up next, West Coast Eagles. And they would love this guy. And one of my favourites in this draft, Jacob Van Ruwen. What a little player he is. And 4 picks better off than where he's stated. I think West Coast. Imagine having Oscar Allen and this gentleman up there. But then West Coast's own player. And that is Mr. Brady Howe. Mr. Brady Howe joins the GWS Football Club via coaches' votes. 31. 31. That's pretty impressive. Do you know what I mean? 31, and that's where he ends up. Real fascinating, really good effort from him. And GWS Giants, interesting, isn't it? Because Lee Collier was in this draft, Brady Howe in this one. Fascinating how sometimes it kind of just like mirrors up. Brisbane on the clock now, and they would take a player that I think is another understated player. Probably 10 picks too late versus the real draft, but Josh Ward. And just imagine that. Josh Ward in this scenario could be a Premiership player. Real fascinating how, you know, the coaches' votes work. And there he is at that football club. Up next on the clock, and that's Richmond. And Richmond got Finn Callahan in their first pick based on this little redraft. And they would also get Jai and Miss. What? You know, it's just fascinating that when you think of what Richmond are trading at, how different this scenario could be. Obviously, they don't have access to coaches' votes 5 years before it happens, but real fascinating, real fascinating. And this one here, I really enjoy for a bit of fun. And that is Sydney are on the clock, and Sydney would take Paul Curtis. Literally, if you go back and watch my draft content, I was hot on the Kurt dog. Imagine Paul Curtis there, learning off Tom Papley. It would be a fascinating sight to see. But you know what? He's 5 coaches' votes. He sneaks in. It's a good fun exercise, this. And then Melbourne would be on the clock. And I think they could do with a player like this. And that is Matt E. Roberts. Matty Roberts comes in. What a terrific footballer. 14 picks earlier. What an exciting little potential prospect this could be. I really like this. It's a good fun game, this. I'll show you the rest of the picks that are on here. But then we've got Brisbane. And Brisbane would be taking Jackson Archer. 38 picks earlier than planned with 5 coaches' votes. Imagine Brisbane here. Imagine another world where Josh Ward and Jackson Archer, who works really hard, would be premiership players. It's a real fascinating little exercise. Tyler Sonsie comes in next at pick 22. And I really like Tyler Sonsie. I really do. And you know what's fascinating about this is there's so many players that we won't talk about in this who have just had injuries. Do you know what I mean? Players like Judson Clark, who I'm really hot on. I can't wait to see where he goes. Jai Sarong just breaking in. He could be someone that I think could be a lot higher up. But real fascinating here that Tyler Sonsie pops in. North Melbourne Football Club would get Ben Hobbs. And I remember at the time there was some links loosely to Ben Hobbs. Real interesting because he's a guy that has been put up for trade. Rumoured. But Ben Hobbs here with 2 coaches' votes. And then the next guy with coaches' votes is Leek Aaliyah. Leek Aaliyah. What a fascinating little concept here. Leek Aaliyah there. We've replaced Jai Sarong effectively with Leek Aaliyah. That would be an absolute fascinating tale, I think, to take. And that is the end of players who got coaches' votes. But then what we do is we go it on games played. Right? So that was the next separator. And not Geelong, as real life, would end up with 2 draft steals here. Jesse Motlop and Matt Johnson, 40 games and 37 games, respectively. I could see them playing for Geelong as well, and it breaks my heart because I'm a big fan of Jesse Motlop and Matty Johnson. But that is fascinating. And then 27 on the clock would be Campbell Cheshire. 32 games from this gentleman. And I could see him playing at Hawthorn, you know. I could see him really being that type of player that he would use. And then Jack Williams would give Carlton an answer maybe to that third up problem that they suggest with Jackie Williams. And that would leave Richmond with 2 guys who have both played 23. Neil Erasmus, what a steal that is. And Greg Clark. So you can see here with the big risers that obviously 3 picks better off here. Jake Saligo looks a better deal every day. Connor McDonald and Mitch Owens, no doubt about it. Jace Burgoyne deserving to be in the top 20, I think, if you redraft it. St Kilda just really cleaning up. Jackson Archer as well, another clean-up. But then you look at some of the big fallers. Neil Erasmus, one of the big fallers. Obviously, the position really affects it. Sam Darcy, which I think is probably fair. I think he's probably top 5 if you redraft it. But that is fascinating, I find. But that's a really fun exercise. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like this kind of exercise? I thought it was quite good fun. Let me know what you think. Peace, love, and light. See you at 6. Pom out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.